All right.
So
When you're
I'll be
ready, please.
sharing my screen shortly.
Just when you're ready, just let us know. Welcome, Henry. Welcome, Taiwo.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Evening. Trust the week has been good.
Yeah. Thank God.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Henry. Welcome.
Hello, Harry. Good evening or good morning over to you. I don't know which is it, which now.
All right. There seems to be some static from your end, though, please. I don't know.
It's afternoon here. So
Me?
yeah, please. It looks like I think it's your headphones.
Yes.
Your microphone.
Yeah.
So
The standing fan is blowing
Okay.
directly to
That's
my
what it is.
oh,
to me. So I guess
Good evening, sirs.
Hi, Master Adford. Welcome. Evening. Trust the
let me
week.
share my screen. So
Oh, okay. So guys, Bliss is having some issues. So before we jump into, you know, the agenda for today, we'll just quickly see if we can unblock him. I hope that's fine. All right, you can go ahead and share screen.
yeah, my screen is being shared now. I don't know if you can see.
Nope, I can't see it. Not yet.
It's coming up.
See your screen.
Okay, I see.
I see my screen now. Okay. I finished installing the Terraform. So I think sorry.
And just do a Terraform -v or Terraform space -- version help.
Yeah, so if I
You're
do
spelling
the
Terraform wrong though. This is Terraform.
sorry, so what?
That you're spelling Terraform wrong. Your spelling of Terraform is wrong.
Yeah. Sorry, I've seen that.
This should give us the version here. Okay, so you have Terraform installed. Okay, so let's do a Terraform init. This configuration file looks fine.
Honestly, this Terraform -v didn't work for me. What is wrong if I'm alone?
God, I'm very cool.
No, I just don't understand. This is the second time.
I know this. So technology would always want to shame you and make you feel like a liar.
I just cleared the screen now. I don't know if you saw the screen earlier. I just cleared it
I
when
saw
I
the
tried
error.
it.
Yeah, I saw.
No, but your spelling of Terraform was wrong now.
So maybe
I think it's at this time when I was typing. I know I was looking at the spelling then to be sure that. Well, let me assume it's still the spelling.
Okay. So Terraform apply.
Okay.
You
Honestly, this was I was stuck last night, so I was trying to do this.
there are times, so many times that developers will send messages and this thing is not working. Can you please help us look at it? I might not respond because I'm doing something else. And then when I eventually have their time, I just call and say, okay, can I see what your problem is? And when they try it out, they say it's working. Say, did you do anything? I didn't do anything. I'm just calling to to ask what the problem is. Yeah. I say, so what did you do different from what you've been doing since? Like nothing. No, it just ran the same thing. And so many things. A product manager usually say is magic. Yeah, so anything technology, say it's magic. work and it will not work. There are some things that you just probably, I don't know, may not be able to explain. Mm. Are you going to apply this or you're good now?
In order not to delay every other person, so maybe
Okay.
let me do
Okay.
that.
Since this has initialized already.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing. Thank you very much.
All right. Welcome. Hi guys. Thank you for your patience. All right. Welcome once again, everyone. I hope I'm audible enough. Welcome to today's session. First and foremost, I would say I was just going to say kudos to Henry, Balumi, and Master Adford. Taiwo, I'm going to call T because you did not fully participate in that session and that classwork. So you're going to just take.
But I was observing now.
You were there, but but
It's okay.
Balumi, Taiwo, Henry, and Master Adford, they really took charge of our last session, and again, I was impressed, to be candid, with the way they were able to, even just with the barest minimum introduction to some concepts, and then they took charge and then walked through it. Especially the security group parts. Trainees usually struggle with that part, especially with the ingress and the egress parts. But apparently, well, we have tech enthusiasts here that know how to use their senior brother, their code generation tools. Yeah, but it was an interesting session. Yeah, and I want to believe that you guys were able to complete or walk through it once again. You didn't just copy what I pasted. So I was going to share, but I know you guys probably had copied and then shared it on your WhatsApp group too. I didn't share it on Discord because I wanted, again, that WhatsApp group, I want to be in it because I know so many things will be going down in that WhatsApp group. Yeah, but it's always good to work on all of these things.
What add to it, sir? With the permission. Yeah.
No problem. Yeah. So again, I want to believe you guys are better for it with that very small exercise, that we worked on. Today we would be moving ahead, with IAC still, working on configuration files, because that's the more familiar you are with configuration files and a few other constructs now that will be introduced to, and that's how all of these things would come together. But before we jump into the agenda for today, like my manner is, I'm just going to quickly run us through my TED talk. So today is saying that you can't master an art you don't practice. Yeah, so that's why I keep emphasizing practice, 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 because the more you do, especially, in fact, everything, both your familiarity with the Linux operating system, whatever cloud provider you choose to want to learn, all of these things require that you get your hands dirty. If you don't you just think, okay, yes, I have the knowledge of this. When the time comes, I can, it will fail. Things that you think is very straightforward, yeah. If you don't do it, and then you are assured, there's a kind of assurance that actually comes when you have done something. So that's why I say it's consistent practice. You actually births mastery. So when you do something over and over again, even if, when you're trying to do it, a second or a third time, and then you're experiencing some issues, because you know that, yes, I've done this thing before, it is possible, you can confidently tackle whatever issue it is that you're facing. And by the time you do it over and over again, yeah, you're going to get good at it. And I for especially anything that has to do with code now, there you find out there's no one way of doing it. There are multiple ways of doing it, and it is when you work at it, you discover different ways of actually, hitting that target. So again, I can't overemphasize the need to practice, even if it's something we've done together in class. For some of us, that actually walk through it in class together, yeah, you can still do it again and then look for other ways of doing it. It's not, my way of the way I did it is not the only way that it can be done. Yeah, when you find out your own way of doing it, you see that, it gives you that extra confidence. Yeah. Right, welcome to my TED Talk, and we're going to jump into our agenda for today. So today is hopefully, this is just the agenda for today. We'll have a fresh agenda for tomorrow. So we'll be talking about a few configuration features. We'll be learning about these different features that Terraform, offers as we deploy different, write different configuration, and then we're going to build on that. So at the end, we'll be able to aggregate and bring all of these concepts together. Yeah, we would be deploying a LAMP stack application. Yes, Angela, I realized you could not join. Yeah. Oh wow. Sorry, I hope you're feeling better now. Okay. Thank God. Bella. Welcome. You should rest, find time to rest properly, and eat. Food is very, very important. When I'm feeling small headache, you can't see the recordings. That's strange. Is it how far? Okay, just for the last class. Could you drop your email? Let me see if it's, but maybe I probably missed that out. Well, welcome. Sorry if you get much better. So we will be deploying a LAMP stack. I'm sure we've talked about, okay, the Gmail. All right, I'll look into that. We deployed, I think, several LAMP stack application in our cloud module. And so we would be, again, the LAMP stack is quite popular, and that's why we've been kind of using it as our like shoot. So give me a minute, guys. I might have go. Sorry about that, guys. My inverter decided not to come up. I hope you guys can hear me still.
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I was talking about the LAMP stack and how it's is still quite popular as a means of recap. LAMP is an acronym for, Linux, which is the operating system in that is like a I don't want to say it's a framework is a web development platform kind of that has Linux as the operating system. So all of the tools that you use as part of that development, and this stack is still very, very popular when we talk about web development, basically. Apache as the web server, MySQL as the relational database, and PHP as the object-oriented language. Yeah, so we have quite a number of applications running on the web that uses this, and that's why it has been our focus, thus far. It has 4 layers basically, and the same depending on what operating system that you want to deploy to. You have the setup for Windows and also for Mac. Yeah, so it has quite and the advantage because it is open source and quite easy to deploy. Yeah, and because it's easy does not mean yeah yeah, it's not systematic. You have to still be systematic when you're deploying it. You can host it cheaply, like we've been doing. And for all of those, yeah. And like I said, we'll be discussing on a few Terraform configurations. Again, building upon the things that we have been learning. We learned about
Hello, can anyone hear me?
in our last class. Somebody said something now.
Hello?
Yeah, Balumi, we can hear you.
Did you want to ask something?
It was Balumi asking if we can hear him.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
We can't hear you
no-
again, though.
How about now?
Okay, yeah, I better. Or were you just testing your mic?
I've not been hearing the session for a while now, but I just realized now that my system I connected to listening devices to my laptop, so that was why I was not hearing on my main device.
Oh,
Sorry, but I can hear now.
okay. All right, cool. All right, so we'll talk about again some configuration features. We mentioned interpolation last week, and we'll be using that over and over again for every new configuration that you write. There's no way you would not have to kind of reference, use a resource inside of another resource. Yeah, so it's a very, very important concept. And then we'll be talking about version control system, Git. We'll be focusing on, we'll talk about the different types of version control system, and then we would come back to talking about Git, and then we'll talk about GitHub. There are 2 different concepts altogether. Again, this is just going to be like an introduction to version control system, because we'll moving forward, we'll start learning how to work collaboratively. Yeah, so say myself and Dan now needs to work on a complex architecture, and then I have the part I'm supposed to work on. Dan has the part he's supposed to work on. How do we work together, to achieve this? Not that I'm working on the full project and then Dan is working also on the full project, but we would work together and have a central place to push our code. And for the most part, you guys will be working as part of a team in an organization, and then you probably not be on the same, I don't know, continent, or not be in the same building, probably working remotely. So how do we aggregate your code, whatever configuration you've written and what your colleague has written? So that's why I would need to learn about version control system. I think in the DevOps module, because you'll be using GitHub a lot, as storing your so many things. So I'm just going to introduce us to it now. It's not, again, so that all of the configuration that we'll be writing moving forward, we can start pushing it to, GitHub, and you can start building up your GitHub profile, because I think most roles now would require some form of, you would need to, at times they even request for your GitHub account, when you are submitting your applications and what have you. They just want to see, if you have that, if your profile now has been in existence, for a while, and they try to see the number of commits and pushes you've done. Yeah, maybe, on their own end. I interviewed a guy a while back now, yeah, and he said, I just asked him how familiar was he with GitHub, and he said he has been using it for donkey years. And when I checked his GitHub profile, I saw that he just joined maybe a couple of months before the time of that interview. So it's good to have, using it, so that whenever it is you start, so anybody that goes there would see that, okay, you are actually have been consistent with this. And because developers use this a lot, it's actually a very, very important concept, which will be introducing us to some terminologies in it, and then we'll just talk about Git on the high level. I know some of us are already familiar with this, but I know some of us also are, still new to some of these things. So you will be experiencing, there's a session that is dedicated to GitHub, basically. Yeah, but I will be introducing us to version control from the mountaintop, and then we'll use it and start storing our code. Yeah, so jumping into the deploying of the LAMP stack. So I will be taking a different approach in deploying this LAMP stack. I will be just bring up my, okay, yeah, so this is all that we did, from our last class. Taiwo, were you able to complete this, or you just took the source code and then you ran it? Did you do it?
No, I just I follow your steps, but I did it on my own. Because I was struggling with the security
group.
Yeah. Well, I managed to at least.
Were you able to
do some research? Yeah.
All right, cool. So by the time you have to deploy one or two security groups, you see that you're going to it's just, again, ingress and egress. If you can actually differentiate, what it means, and what, kind of map it to, when you deploy, when you create security groups, on the console. Yeah, ingress is your inbound rule. Ingress and egress is outbound. Yeah. So if you can do that mapping, it becomes kind of easy to write the configuration. And that's why I keep emphasizing the knowledge of how to use the console before you start writing infrastructure as code. Yeah. So like I said, I will be taking a more I don't want to say direct approach, because every approach is actually direct here. But now I will be letting my co-pilots do, because going back and forth, yes, this is still the single source of truth. When you need to write your configuration, you want to. That's why I started out by showing us how we can get, up to date kind of configuration from the documentation. It's always good practice to use the documentation. I learned using the documentation, but now when I was learning, AI had not taken center stage. Has not generative AI had not come to our rescue. Yeah, so I will be using generative AI because I already know exactly what I want to deploy. And so I would let it guide me, even though I'm not going to rely on it completely. If I see something out of the ordinary, if it gives me something out of the ordinary, I would need to still come back to reference the documentation. Again, it would introduce some outdated configure plugins. Yeah, and if you see, I think I was checking this earlier, and I saw that we have new versions now of the provider. Yeah, we have new versions that was updated 2 days ago, and yeah, so we have all of this, and they keep improving on all of these things as AWS, introduces new things. HashiCorp themselves would also need to, because they're the ones actually supporting the plugins, different plugins for the different providers now. Yeah, so they also update regularly. Yeah, so and then the whatever generative AI you're using may not have that data just yet, because whatever it is that they have trained it with, or in its memory that it actually supplies. So, well, I will still be using it because I kind of know where I'm going to. So we're going to deploy an stack. Again, I'll be introducing us to a few things. I think so I'll be starting off when we deployed this. So this, I'm still going to use this same configuration file because I would want to point out a few things from it. This was what we did on Sunday, the classwork, basically. So in a few things I will be pointing out, excuse me. So I will be starting, I think in my EC2, there was, okay, yes, because I had to add code, the key name now, if I wanted to. We'll be learning to create our own key now instead of having to go to the console. So all that we'll be learning is to try to reduce, having to go to the console to get anything. Yeah. So, and when I was actually doing this, it took me a while to actually put everything together, but it made sense after all. Creating a key, a few things that needs to be done first. You need to, if you know when you're creating a key in the console, you know how key file works. There is the private key, and then the public key. So and then with configuration as code, if infrastructure as code, you need to explicitly do all of these things one after the other. Yeah, so I will be starting with that. I'd like to use I'm going to generate new RSA key pair. All right, so I can use this. I hope you guys can see my keystrokes are actually very, 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 very few. And now I'm going to create my key pair. So this is the private key now. This is the private key that I just generated. I'm going to create a key pair. And I'm not saving it to a file yet. I need to create a key pair. That's the public key now. It needs to be created. resource, AWS key pair, global key. I'll take that key name, global key. So it's whatever you call this key name that would be created in the console. Yeah. So the public key now is going to be the interpolation of this private key, and then using the public key OpenSSH property of this private key to, create the private key, the public key of this. That's basically what this is actually doing. And then if you remember, when you create a key pair, in the console, after creating it, it will generate. In fact, let me just open up this. Let me sign in, and then let's see. This is but this thing does not allow me to sign into AWS. Oh. Oh, yeah. I have one ISP that does not allow me to sign into AWS. I don't know why. I have to switch to this other one. Oh. Multiple providers. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Let's quickly switch. Let me refresh this. This does not want me to show this thing. I'm just going to go ahead and continue. And then when this decides to behave itself, we'll come back to it. All right, so each time you create your, I don't know if you guys remember, on the console, it would kind of download the public key now, which we use now in authenticating when we need to connect to whatever instance now that we attach that the private key to. Yeah, so now we have to kind of create that local file to store the private key. So I'm going to create local file to store my AI is not loading. Copilot is not.
Is it going to be a .pem file as well?
I didn't get that.
Is it going to be a .pem file as well? .pem file as well, right?
Yes, it's true. So you will be the one to yes to name it. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's .pem is an extension, but you have to when you're writing the configuration for it, you see it in a bit now.
Okay. Okay.
It would you'd have to name it in the name of the file. So it's going to be a local file. You remember when we created the local file? It's kind of, I swear, I want to break my laptop. To store private to pirate. I don't know why my Copilot keeps going off. Today that I decide to want to use this is now going off.
Sorry, sir. What does the TLS stand for? TLS.
Is a cryptographic protocol, transport layer,
Transport layer
security.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Protocol, basically for communication.
Okay.
How long would I have to do for you, man? Come on. I'm going to have to go ahead and try to.
What process is currently running?
Process.
Yeah, are you waiting for something to complete?
Yes, my Copilot. So the moment, so I have the Copilot, I have it enabled, but I don't know, it was off. So it wasn't giving me, it wasn't generating. I didn't want to type all of this thing from my head. Yeah, so this is basically using a local file provider now to take all of this private key and then generating a private key from it, and then I'm naming it. I can name it whatever I want. You know, the file name is going to be basically to create, in the folder now where my configuration is, or if you want to explicitly, point it to wherever, anywhere on your, machine where you want it to create. So this would take all of these two, and then create. You can name this whatever it is. It's the content that actually matters. The extension, it's just an extension. Yeah, yes, the content actually matters. Yeah, I hope this 3 bits make sense.
Yes, sir. But sometimes we do change of how you call it now.
Yeah, that's when you want to use it to connect to your instance.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Change
in this local file, you can actually, there's a file permission permission option there. So you can from here even set your file permission even while you're creating it. Yeah, if you want to do that from here also. So all right, so next, I mentioned that we will be talking, I think in the last session, yeah, or every time we had to create an EC2 instance now, we had to kind of go to copy to get the AMI from the console. And like I said, we want to reduce having to go to the console to get our AMI, even though there are other options to getting your AMI. You don't have to actually go into the console or even use this this data. So we want to talk about data source now. So data source basically in Terraform is used to fetch data from a resource that is not managed by our current Terraform project. Yeah, say our AMI now, whatever AMI that we want to fetch. Now I want to fetch from our AWS now. So it would that's what data source actually does. It will go and fetch that resource, and then we can now use it inside of our configuration. So it's sort of a read-only resource now that already exists. So the resource already exists, and all we want to do, I want to use it as part of our configuration now. So we'll just go and fetch it from wherever it is that is existing. Yeah. So yes, so that object, like I said, Terraform actually sees everything it manages as an object. So now we want to introduce an object that already exists. We're not creating this object now. The object already exists. So we want to, introduce it. We want to use it as part of our configuration. So we have that data source objects. Yes, resource now, not objects. So I'm just going to say get latest Amazon. So where am I? Yes. So aside just AMI now, I don't know if there's any other resource that comes to mind, that you can get from AWS. I think we just created one of it right now. If it exists already, say your key pair already exists, instead of having to just if you don't know the name of the key pair, you can actually use your data source to actually pull it. Yeah. So for this data, so it's using the data right now. We have been talking about the resource block. Now the data block is another object now that's Terraform manages. So data block requests that Terraform raised from a given data source, blah, blah, blah. Again, all those stories is basically just going to get an object that already exists and then pulling it inside of our, and this data source now is an AWS AMI. Yeah, so, and then naming it Amazon Linux 2 or whatever it is that you want to name it. I want the most recent one. And then this is not given. Okay, the owner is here. Like to put this. So I can I'm just going to structure this well. The owner is Amazon. If it were Ubuntu, it's going to be a different owner because Ubuntu is owned by somebody else. And then I'm just going to use a very basic filter. Don't need two filters, one is fine. If you do a Terraform,
Or if you want a particular type of Ubuntu machine, like a particular configuration, or probably like a Windows machine, in particular if it's T2, TTV, T something and all.
Push it here.
so
And you hold it down. Oh, you can turn it off. Yep, that's it. You have to push it and hold it down.
AWS data.
Mr. Moyo,
Yes.
did you hear my question?
I was hearing two people speak, so I wasn't sure which of them. I was hearing a particular, then somebody else said something, so I kind of got
So I was
distracted.
asking, what if you want like a particular type of machine? So how will you generate the AMI? Maybe like a T2 machine or T4 or something, either Windows or Linux or something.
So this is where you define it, and so that's why I wanted to bring up the documentation so you see. So for the owner now, if it's a Windows, obviously it will be Microsoft. Yeah. If it's Ubuntu, it's going to be Canonical. So depending on what OS now, you have to probably search for the owner of the OS. Like again, we have AMI owners, optional list of owners to limit search, valid values, you know, an AWS account ID. That's if it's a if it's, you know, a private EMI or an AWS owner, so Amazon, Microsoft. You have Microsoft for Windows machine, Canonical. So you have a list of accepted values for that owner's reference, and then you can still add more filters now, you know, to kind of describe images. You know, I think there's a full reference now to check again documentations. You'll be reading a lot of documentation depending on what exactly you want to do. Yeah. I don't know why my network is just very terrible today. Well, does that answer your question though?
Yes, like it answered like part of it, because I was asking like if probably like you want a particular type of machine, maybe like a performance or like a processing or like
And so
maybe
that's going to be your instance type. You define that your AMI is mostly your the operating system, and yeah, what else is baked into the AMI? If you now want to now determine the instance type, say the number of CPUs, the number of RAM, the size of the RAM, the size of, you know, the family of instance now, you know, that is based off of this AMI. You determine that inside of your AWS instance now. We're going to get, I think we did that somewhere here. So you're going to the instance type now will determine, you know, other configuration that is part of this AMI.
okay.
Right. So again, the owner, you can search for depending on, you know, what operating system you want, and then the want to now filter this even further, say get me a specific, okay, so you can, yeah, look, even this filter now can do this. You can specify, okay, yes, I want for this AMI, I want a specific architecture, you know, I want an x86, I want, you know, all of this, again, all of this, the value of this can be gotten from the documentation also, because it's expecting a specific kind of value. And then you can even decide if you don't want to be very granular, you don't want to be specific on, you know, what would be returned. You can just decide to use a wildcard. So I want to have an Amazon 2 AMI with the HVM and then I can say, okay, yes, instead of using a 2.0, x86, all of these other things, I can just use a wildcard. So it's going to get a bunch of, you know, AMIs, but it's still because of this most recent now that I kind of have specified this would, and this filter is just kind of still fetch me a bunch of this, but I want the most recent of all of this. Yeah. So again, this can be, you can kind of play around what exactly the different filters. You know, when Copilot generated this for me, kind of gave multiple filters now, and then depending on, you know, whatever it is that you want to get, you have all of these references here to help you identify the architecture, the US architecture of the AMI, the ARN, boot mode. You know, you can still go very, very granular with whatever, if you want to filter it down. Yeah. Even if you have a snapshot, you can actually use that also. So there are a bunch of things that you can actually do with the data source. Yeah. Yeah. I hope this data source actually, you guys get it, because we'll be using it also for not just AMIs now. We can use it to get a list of availability zones, use it to get, you know, whatever it is that, you know, exists already in AWS, and then you want to use as part of your configuration, you can use. So if you have an already existing kind of structure you want to still reference inside here of your configuration, so that Terraform can start managing it, so you don't get configuration drifts. You know, if anything happens there, yeah, use your data source to actually do that. Yeah. All right, so do I need them? Okay, yes, this is going to get this. So before I move forward, I said it's always good practice to kind of I'm just going to, because the security group I want to for the instance. So I think it's always good practice, especially when you create resources, a resource now that requires multiple providers for, say, this key pair now that we created. I think it's always good practice to run your, run your Terraform, apply, and all of those things, so that if there's anything, before you go too far from, writing other configuration, yeah, it's just, again, good practice to run your config, run to see if there's any change, any need to, fix whatever it is that you've done. So I'm not very, very sure of this. Maybe, things have changed in here. So I'm just going to just do a Terraform init. I'm doing a Terraform init because I realized I know in here, I don't think I have the local provider. I think the last time it was just the AWS. So we have just the AWS provider in here. So if I try to apply this without initializing, it's going to fail. Let's say I don't have the plugin to create a local file for you. So I see that it's finding it test for yes. It's got only one fast. I was thinking I'll do this in 30 minutes. So your so fail to query available package. This is not correct at all. Fail to query available provider package. So I know from experience that this is probably when I see a timeout executed while awaiting headers, I know it's a network issue and it's not my configuration, else it would have pointed to a line of code that is wrong there. So I'm going to try to run this again, and hopefully my internet behaves itself now. My internet is not very responsive this evening. Switching. It's a different ISPs. I don't know. I'm expecting to see. Okay. Okay, it's gotten the local and also in TLS. This is used for again our PEM file. So this is good. And then the Terraform line. Just gonna apply this.
Check a Terraform.
Yeah.
Check a
Okay.
Terraform.
Yes. Thank you. Approve. I'm glad somebody is following me.
Yeah, I actually just ran the thing and it was successful.
Oh, okay. Henry is always ahead of me. Eh? Even while me, I'm still battling with internet and all of the areas is already chilling. Like, please, when you are here, this is not
Yeah,
fair.
but I don't have Copilot like you, so I couldn't like auto generate those things like you were. So I was typing them.
Oh, wow.
Type them out.
So, but you have autocomplete now. Once you type some of this, it would.
Yes. So, but you have to be careful with that too, because sometimes it gives you like when I was trying to create the AMI, it was giving me Ubuntu. So
okay.
something like that. So you have to be careful.
So I think I mentioned that you can also, there's black box, which I think is actually a good coding assistance. If you want something that is free, black box is actually good. And okay, I don't want to say it has latest code base. So all right.
So I might need some help with committing this to my Git, because I think I'm getting some errors. I'm trying to make sure that whatever we're doing here, I'm saving it into my GitHub
So
account.
we'll talk about how we would push all of this to GitHub after this.
Okay.
Part of the things
Sounds
that
good.
we have lined out.
Okay.
Right. So I don't know if you guys noticed, after running the apply, this pen file private key gets generated. So this is what we use in authenticating when we want to SSH into the this. So say that my configuration is good. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue. Let's quickly rush through this. I'm going to create a security group now for so pilots. Why'd you keep going off? Give me security group. Thank you. So I'm going to security group, allow. I'm just going to call it mobile security group. Yeah, this is not descriptive enough. Lazy ass. Allow.
Is your copilot then a cheat code?
Yeah, he's not doing.
Serious.
More, if you want the best thing, you have to pay for it too, because honestly,
you see how it's not making making life easy for me.
as man.
So this I want it to come from everywhere. This cider. Thank you. I still want another ingress rule. Ingress for 80. I also want this from.
Are you recreating the file, or you copy the file? What changes are you making to the ingress and the egress?
Nothing. It's just but now I'm not. It's what we've done before. Yeah. It's just that I'm not. Is my friend, my big brother, that is helping me generate all of this now.
Okay.
Basically what we did, and so you can just, if you don't have to type everything again, just copy and paste. Copy and paste is very, very allowed. Code reuse. Do not repeat yourself. I'm not repeating myself, so I'm just going to end this. Before we end this, let's add a tag. Yeah. No. Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to go over this to be sure that it's nothing out of the ordinary. My inbound traffic 22 is TCP, 80 is TCP, egress is -1. All right. We did this last week, so I don't have to go through this again. Next is I will be creating an EC2 instance. Give me the code that I need. All of this is fine. Albeit it's not what I want. I will be editing this. So for our AMI now, I'll be interpolating just like we learned. For interpolating data, is our data source is quite different from if we're interpolating just a normal resource. For a normal resource, we only use the attribute parts, just this part of our resource. But for the data now, we would be using all of that definition, and then you see it uses data.aws AMI and then the logical name dot now is our AMID we are getting. So with .id, we have a bunch of other properties. If we do a dot, we have a bunch of other properties, but it's just the ID that we need from this here. And then our instance type, I'm going to use EC3 micro because I like the EC3 family. And then our key name also, this will be using the AWS key pair that we created. AWS key pair, AWS key pair here. This is a resource, so we won't be using, it's just this part we'll be using and interpolating it in here, AWS key pair, Boban, and then is the key name that we want to reference, the key name now that's was defined as part of, yes, this key name, yeah, the key name is what we reference. So whatever it is, it's just going to fetch this key name in there. And then security group, our EC2 resource is using the security group. So I just want, I know, let me just search for AWS security group. From AWS security group. So this is why I said, this is one of the reasons why I say you would not be relying completely. So when I was doing this, it wasn't an error per se, but it just threw a warning. There was a warning that something is being deprecated. So this security group's properties is actually being deprecated. There's a bunch of things that I don't know why this is added there. So don't need all of this. Plenty connection, remote exec. Yeah. We'll come back to here. So AWS security group. If I come here, is this security group? Oh, no. It's to instance. I wanted to instance. Oh shit. AWS instance is what I want. So I think I went through this, and there's a part here. I'm looking for security groups now. So optional is only if creating instance in the VPC, use security group IDs instead. Yeah, so this is where you gain your single source of truth. And there's no instance now that you will not create inside of a VPC. So I think the VPC security group ID is actually a better option for this. So I will be using VPC security group ID as my VPC underscore security. Where is my copilot? You're making me type too much, mate. This is security group IDs. This is wrong. IDs. So it's the ID of AWS security group, mobile security group, the ID property that I want in here. There is. Okay, so this also when we have angle brackets, as our value, it basically means this particular key takes a set. It takes an array, a set of strings now, so you can have multiple security groups attached to this instance. That's why even when we had just the security group there, it was the data type that it expects is, it can take is an array. An array is a set of, strings, so you can have multiple security groups. And I think it's comma separated. So if you have another security group that you want to add to this, all you need to do is, just do the command and it's going to add this to it. Yeah.
Like a list, right?
Like
A
list, array, sets. We have all of this. They are collection types. They call them, yes, collection types. It's just a collection of multiple values grouped together. Yeah, that's a single value. Yeah, so lists. Yeah, so we have different collection types in the HashiCorp configuration language. I've not talked about the different data structures that we have, the primitive type. I think we'll get to that very, very soon. We have list, maps, sets, and what have you. I think we have, we've talked about objects, we have tuple, and we'll talk about all of those things very, very briefly. Again, we are learning a programming language, a configuration language now, and all of these things. I'm sure you guys would even, it would be easy for you guys to pick up programming. So by the end of this session itself, you can start writing your own, software. Yeah. All right. So this added a few things that I didn't want, so I had to remove. Oh my God. Sorry, guys. My light is very, very unstable. No, my screen is not showing again. Yeah. Sorry about this off and on, guys. Please bear with me. So I'll be adding a user data. We used the user data in our last, and this is what is suggesting, where we have end of file, blah, blah, blah. But if we come back to the documentation, yeah, so we, so we have the user data part here. It's to provide did not pass instead used to field. So there is actually a better way of actually using the user data, or yes, a better way, because say you have a number of things that you want to use, passing all of those in here would not be so. Okay, this is exactly what we did in the last class, where you have your, multi-line strings, having that marker in here. But there is, again, we'll be taking a different approach. We won't be adding the script directly. I'll be adding it as a file now. So I can pass a file to user data and then name that file. Whatever it is I want to, we'll call it, usually there's a template file. They call it a template. Yeah. So you can name this whatever it is that you want to call it. I'm just going to, for a lack of, I'm just going to call it a user. I'm going to call the user data. Again, this can append anything to it. Really does not matter. But by convention, we actually use a TPL. And again, a template file that you're passing to your user data. Usually is a script. When you're writing a script, I know, and my friend here keeps putting a .sh, but when we're writing configuration so that you set it apart, from other files that you have in here, because you can have scripts inside of your configuration, but you want to, again, this is just by convention, to have this. So you would need to create, because this file needs to actually, exist. Yeah, so we'll be creating this user data .cpl. This is just going to contain a bunch of things. Again, our lamp stack, all the things that we want to do. So I'm just going to, I have that somewhere. You guys already are familiar with bash scripts. So it's a bash script, is installing lamp stack, installing MariaDB, PHP, HTTPD, starting the web server, installing the web pages for the project, and installing some other SDKs, and then updating all of the packages that has been installed. I'm sure this is, you guys are familiar.
Can you please post it in the chat window?
Okay. If you run this thing before me, Henry, okay, we'll enter the same.
No, I'll wait for you.
I was saying, Kokoyo,
Yes, please.
I was doing something today. I discovered that this check config HTTP on is duplicated as well too for newer version of PHP. Check config HTTP on. It's not system CTA.
Okay. So it's just setting an extra
enable, yeah.
for your web server.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is part of the reason why I even chose some of these things, because so you can get up to date strategies now when it comes to deploying these applications, because so again, the way developers they are using quite a number of frameworks now as part of their development to ease development. So if you don't have the way you configure your web servers, the way a few things. So in fact, this happened today. I went to defend one small project, and then one of the developers, we actually promoted to staging. Okay, no, there was something that was failing, trying to get call an API, and it was failing silently. It was not throwing any error. And this was, they updated some of the dependencies recently, and then that update actually introduced a few things, it was not throwing any error. So he just called me, and said that, "Moyo, I'm sorry, can we," because he said he made a fix, he's working on his local app, but it was not working on the dev instance. So we kind of like had to add some console.log files, loggers in on the server itself, and then we discovered that it was a Redis cache, issue. Yeah, so the older dependency was required, the Redis cache now to have password, but the newer dependency, the updated one, actually did not require it. So it was not failing on the front end, was not throwing any error. It was just failing on the cache side. Yeah, so all of these little things, yeah, while set, so all I needed to do was go into the Redis config, because Redis was running on the instance now. Then there was a particular option, something as simple as check config HTTPD on in your configuration file.
Yeah.
Just commenting that out actually fixed the issue, and I had to implement that across all of the environment, because the issue was actually on both staging and prod. Yeah, it was trying to replicate it. It was working locally because it didn't have password set on its local machine. So I had to turn just one on check, require password in the configuration. So all of these little things, yeah, go a long way And then it's when, you practice, you do all of these things that's, so when next, anything happens like that, silent filling API, first thing I want to do, check out now is, okay, let's log some things in the Redis part and let's see what the error is. So experience comes from all of these things, and yeah. All right, back to our configuration. Next, okay, yeah, let's just add let's make this kind of, let's add the launch templates. Let's put this in auto-scaling group so we can have multiple instances. While you're creating a new elastic IP address, let's create a launch template. I'm not spell launch templates. Thank you. I'm going to take all of this. Are you giving me name prefix? Source. I just want the name. Name is fine. Name prefix. It's no good. Name is more than enough. Name, mobile, launch template is fine. I want to complete this before image ID. Obviously, we are just going to interpolate our data now. Instance type is C3 micro. Key, again, this is basically just launching our instance again. I don't think I want this network interface part. I'm just going to use the options that I used in security group. Yeah. Syntax this properly. Oh, shoot. PC security group. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to add that user data also. Should the user data file. Basically all that we've done already. Again, we can also use a base64. We have different options to using user data. Source type is an instance, yeah, for this, and then let's just call it mobile server. Why not? And then this launch templates, let's use it inside of an auto-scaling group now. Thank you. Auto-scaling group, mobile ASG, desired capacity. I want just 2. And then if it does spike, go up to 3. Minimum size, add 2. Launch template ID, launch template. Those are launch templates. So we're going to interpolate this. See that I don't have to go because I'm using if I was writing this myself, I have to copy paste and then, launch all of this. Latest version, just target name, mobile server, propagate at launch.
Samuel, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, since we are creating multiple instances,
yes,
is it possible to use like count parameter or something? Just instead of writing.
Yes, instead of using your launch template, you can
Yeah.
use your count. But with your count, it will only provision the amount that you say you should provision. It will not be it will not have that dynamism where if that auto scaling, if an instance is, now our instance now can scale up to 3. If the 2 instances now that we launch, if they are kind of, if the requests come in, as a flood, it can scale out. But if you use a count, it's fixed. There's no that dynamic nature of your infrastructure is not scalable. Yeah. So that's why I actually introduced.
But what about using for each?
For each, as part of creating your instance.
Yeah.
So for each, okay, you want to take us, it's again, it's
No,
still,
because I just want to be sure.
yes, it's still, for each is just saying, for each of these instance, you
Okay.
have, again, you still having a fixed number of instances now. It's just saying for each of this instance, I want to have similar configuration as part of it.
Okay.
It does not add that dynamism, for it to be flexible.
For just like for each, what about if you describe it in such a way that, okay, if the resources for this instance is at this threshold, spin up a different a new instance.
It's your auto scaling group that can do that for you. For the resource, the EC2 resource, you can't, it would only spin up an EC2 instance, but if you add that count, or for each now, can, again, it's just going to spin up, and it does not make it flexible. It's just an object. But with our auto scaling group, and that's why you have to first create a launch template and say, this is like the blueprint of what I want you to be able to spin up if, anything happens, if something happens. Yeah. All right. There's something I'm missing in here. Okay. I'll launch template. So I knew I wanted to talk about something. So I know we talked about this Terraform block in the last session. So I don't know if I pointed out that the essence of this block is to kind of, there are a few things that, especially this version part is kind of a way of, it's called adding a constraint now to this particular AWS provider. So there are some organizations that say, okay, this is the version of Terraform now that we, have adopted. And so all of the plugins that this version actually, for this particular provider, whether AWS or whatever provider now, are what we want to stick to. We don't want to, use whether a latest plugin, or we don't want to use an older kind of set of plugins. We have tested this, and this is what we want to maintain. And that is why this Terraform block is there again. So you can add this version constraints, and this is basically saying any version within 5.0, 5.0 up to 6.0. When I checked this earlier, we saw that there are this provider there's a 5.6.8. Now, with what we have defined here, we are still using like the latest version. So again, there are organizations that already have their configuration, set to maybe 4.0, or they have a few resources that they have, infrastructure that they have kind of created, provisioned, and then the version that's actually matches those infrastructure, is a particular version. And that's why this version constraint is actually applied. You will need to use this version constraint. So there are times that you probably write your configuration and things are breaking because you just keep getting a plugin, not unrecognized plugin or something of that nature. Yeah, so you can, if you don't have, a version constraint there, or if you have a version constraint that is pointing to maybe an higher version, all you need to do is probably come here, especially when you are doing migrations or managing an already existing configuration, and then you try to use some latest arguments now, and then it's failing. Just go and check the constraint, and then come to your documentation and choose the right version, and then you see the right arguments that you have for that particular version. Yeah, I just remember that I wanted to point this out earlier. Yeah, so and we are using our US East 2 region. I know this did not add. I have, okay, in my auto scaling group, there's something that is missing, ability zones. So I want this to ability zones. This takes an array. So I'm just going to put this in US East 1A and US East 1B. And East 2A and 2B. You can have as many ability zones as you want. We could have also used our data to fetch our ability zones and then add them in here if we don't want to hard code this, but this is fine for now. This looks good. Henry, have you run yours? Did you run? Let's go ahead and
no. So I missed a couple steps. If you just give me what you have.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just copy what you have.
It's getting longer already, and
correct, exactly.
This would not allow me paste everything, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm just going to let me even be sure that it will run first before I start pasting this thing.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so let's auto approve this.
Yeah, because I was trying to follow, but I don't have your big brother.
Maybe I'll chat you up on WhatsApp later on.
You said?
I said I'll chat you up on WhatsApp later on.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Name can only take alphanumeric. Where's this? Line 247. Oh, okay. This is launch template. So there shouldn't be a space in here.
Oh, underscore.
It's going to use a hyphen. Okay, I think this is working fine now.
So I want to find something there.
Yes, please.
When you said when you shared the different region, US is 2A and 2B.
Yes.
How will we provision them separately like that? Will you just go and provision them separately like that on the AZs subnets?
Wait, if I didn't get that question. Can you please take it again?
Let's see where you have that code. You said the US.
Yes, the ability zones where I want the auto scaling
yes.
group to create the
So does it mean
instances.
that the institutes now will not go and you position the institutes on this different ability zones?
So what this means is that you are basically just telling about giving it your preferred availability zone in that region to provision this instance resources to. You know, when we created our architecture now, we specified we had two availability zones. That's basically what you're saying. You're telling the auto scaling group that only creates in these two regions.
Okay.
If you didn't specify it, it would randomly just pick out of the whatever ability zone that is in that region and then provision those resources in.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is going to be
Wait, please, can you go back to your VS Code? I wanted to.
Okay.
Let's go to the very beginning of this record.
Yeah.
Okay, so my position was just aside this one, I could see you already have some codes here. So I was not in the previous class. So are these a requirement for us to run this one for today, or we just need to?
No, these are just what we did in the last session. I just commented them out. They are not actually, they're commented out. Yeah. The only thing required, well, it's not required. It's just, you just want to use it, your Terraform block and your provider block, and just to specify, add more granularity to it. The rest of them are just the things that we've worked on. So
sorry, one more thing. Apologies. It may sound stupid, but when I was watching one of it, I saw how you commented out all line of code. I don't know, what key did you use to achieve that?
Command and your backslash, or I think it's control and backslash on Windows now.
Control and backslash.
Yes. Okay. But you have to highlight everything you want to comment out.
Yeah. I try to choose.
All right. I was going to my AWS now is not going to connect because my ISP has blocked. I don't understand.
This thing come out to Mac. I don't know. My own say that.
I didn't get that, Master Hartford. My network has gone again. Oh. I don't know what to do. Hello. What is going on? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You were saying something. I just lost.
No, I said my Mac too. I thought you used to behave like this too. I don't know.
You just will not be able to. Is the ISP? I don't know. For some reason they have. So usually I just use a VPN to save face, but even the VPN is not even just turning on now. Just try it again and see if it's going to connect, because this is not just fair at all. Because I forgot to add the output, so I can't get the IP address. I can actually do that. So I just add that. I'm just going to try to use my. Oh, this is terrible. And at times when I use this VPN, things will just go crazy again now. Oh. Down. Okay, my VPN has kicked in. All right. I got pass it empty. Fix that. I want to see the number of instances that I actually have up and running. I should have, how many instances did I say I wanted? Okay, I wanted 2 instances, so I should have 2 instances running. Henry, have you run yours? Yeah,
it's in progress.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I had some issues with I had issues with some of the commands.
Okay, but you fixed it.
But I fixed it, yes.
All right, cool.
So it's currently running. Okay, so the two servers are up and running now.
Okay.
Yeah, I have three servers. Yes. Actually three.
Oh, why? How come you have 3 running?
Okay, so anyway, okay, everything is successful now. What I have is 16 resources were added. Yeah, so you see you have 3 servers too.
Oh, why do I have 3 servers?
Is your configuration now? Is your file?
This is the configuration. Let's even check if user data actually run. Okay, so why did this deploy to US East 2C? All of these questions, please, somebody should come answer for me. I don't understand though. This next one should be either in A or B. We added US East is 2B.
Just A and B. Yes.
Well, I have mine in US East 2C.
The first one, yeah?
Let me see the second one.
Let's see the third
Yeah, the
one.
first one is in US East 2C for me.
So we have the same configuration. So it's just so this should be in either A or B.
Yes.
What up?
Yeah.
The second is in US is 2B. This is in US is C. Why? And the third one is not running. Is there a reason why?
My first one is in US East 2C. The second one is in US East 2B.
Third one.
And the third one, I'm about to get that one now.
Why is
not running as well?
It's a Godford. Go wait. The third one is in US East 2A.
2A.
Wow.
Why
Yes.
is it not running here? So can you guys just, I don't know, maybe look at the configuration and so we see that we specified US East 2A and 2B in this. So I'm guessing 2 of them actually, the 2 that was provisioned using, okay.
Yeah, US East 2A, 2B, and then the third one is in 2C.
So I think I see I see it now. So we have this EC2 instance now created. This is a resource on its own. So this would be created.
Yeah.
And this we didn't specify what region, what availability zone. So this is just going to choose a random. It's going to be created in a random in any of the availability zone. And then our launch template now will now provision so if you go ahead and maybe change this to maybe tag this something else, and then run it.
Maybe changing it from mobile server to maybe
to something else. You see
mobile 3 mobile third server.
So,
Standalone server.
Again, ability to read your configuration would actually save you a lot. I was surprised, like 2, yeah, but this would go ahead and do that for us.
From apply.
I don't know why this third one is not running. Henry's on RAM. Read this thing. Don't embarrass me, please.
Let's see if that's going to change our name.
Okay. So it's going to add one. So this will just basically just modify our instance changes to mobile EC2. It's just to change the tag now.
Just the name.
Yeah,
just tag it. Okay,
just to confirm. So we see here now that this is mobile EC2, and then we have the 2 that was and that is the US East 2C, and then we have the 2 in A and B. That the auto-scaling group.
He didn't change the name of mine. The tag. Was I tagging? Would I change the wrong one or what?
So is the EC2 resource now that you will change the tag?
So the first one.
The first, EC2 resource.
So the auto-scaling group will be creating 2 of this. Mm.
Okay, let me go back here. I think okay, that's correct. Yeah, there is EC2. Where's my create EC2 instance? Oh, standalone.
Alumi, are you with us today? I hope all of this is making sense or makes sense.
So what we have on display now on the what use of IP address, was it one of the configuration file? File we have that will deploy. That was what you said, Abi, the code there.
Yes. It's just you know,
Because AWS something.
just an AWS was just pulled from this. Just very, but it's a PHP application. Basically, you can have anything actually deployed in there. You can use whatever it is that you want. If your application is been bundled,
Yep,
you
it
can-
worked.
That's it. Yeah.
Mm,
And then the beauty of
yeah, that's what happened.
all of this is I can tear all of this down with just Terraform destroy.
One simple command is run. And for me, what I'll do in my case, I'll just comment it out and
Comment it out, yeah.
do Terraform apply.
Like again, yeah. Yes,
This
it's
is fine.
actually a better way of doing it. But because we'll be taking a break from Terraform now, we will be moving on to our version control. We want to talk about version control. So I'm going to I propose a 5 minutes break or 10 minutes for those that need to stretch or quickly take a bathroom break, and then we'll be back in 10 minutes. I hope that's fine, guys. I know my network has been going off and on,
Yes.
so we probably have had breaks in between, but I don't know. If you guys say no, I'm good to continue. We'll take a 10 minutes break.
You know, we will not say no. So
Everything is fine there.
we will not say no.
Welcome back, guys, to this second half of this session, and said we would be briefly talking about version control systems. Again, just to have a high level understanding, introduce us to some terminologies, and before the end of, we would set up our GitHub account and then run a few configuration, basically set up, make sure Git is configured, because again, we will be building on all of this. And for Henry that wants to also start pushing his code, again, very, very valid. Should start as much as possible, populate your GitHub. Yeah, if I share my GitHub now, I'm sure some of you would be oppressed. Yeah, because I know I do this on a daily, and these are part of the things that employers want to see that, okay, this person actually is active in this space. And some of the things they look at is you can't say you are a developer, you can't say you are a DevOps practitioner and then you don't collaborate somewhat. So would again talk about a few things again just to get some terminologies, because I've seen quite a number of assessment questions, yeah, and for some reason Git is always very present there. You have quite a number of questions that come from Git. In fact, I took one, and maybe I think 50% of the questions were supposed to be for a DevOps role, and it was around was around gates. It was so interesting because then I was not very um, I wouldn't say I was not, I was still, I didn't take it serious. Yeah, even though version control has actually been a tool that one has been using, but I didn't expect that, it was going to be emphasized on for DevOps role. Yeah, but I've come to understand that is something you will use on a day-to-day, it's part of the things you will be administering it. But because DevOps is done, well, depending on what level you are in the organization, I think is the DevOps team that actually should manage giving the right access to the repository. So some of these things are the things we just look from the high level today. So version control systems, yeah, it's very crucial for managing changes in the software, in our configuration code, and any other projects, that involves code now. Yeah, so it's actually is a software. Yeah, so version control systems, software, they use all of those version control, source control, revision control. They are synonymous to all of this. So it's basically a software that helps developers work together. So collaboration is actually at the heart of version control, even though there are other reasons why, but help developers work together and maintain kind of a complete history of the work that is being done. You can see it as a kind of database, even though it uses, some call it a data structure, we'll get to all of this, but if you, if you, I don't know, for those that have ever had to write some code, um, you know, um, before, and then you've made changes to your code now, and then you realize there was a mistake there, and then you want to go back. Control V at time may not, solve it, especially if you've done, you've edited quite a number of files. If we've seen, code bases, we have quite a number of files in there, and then especially whether front end or back end, yeah. If you've worked on, because all of these files, you have multiple, functions in different files, and then they're all linked together. If you've edited quite a number of them, you know that Control V would not actually help in that case. Yeah, so this is where your version control actually comes in, helps you kind of revert to different, you have that functionality to help you revert to. Yeah. So and again, if you've lost code and you didn't have a backup of that code, version control actually comes to the rescue. And if you have to have multiple versions of a particular product or application that you're working on, again, or in our case now, multiple versions of our configuration, even though now our configuration, we only have it in one file, so it's easy to manage. Maybe, but when we start talking about modularizing our configuration, having multiple files, you see that you would make changes to different parts of to the different modules or configuration files that you have, and then you want to run this and see if it works, maybe commit it to your version control, and then try another maybe way of doing it. Maybe the first configuration you wrote didn't, took some time, to run, and then you want to have a different version of that particular solution. Yeah, you can also do that and also commit that, and then compare and contrast which of them actually works. So version control actually gives all of this. Basically, when you want to collaborate, version control actually makes life easy for multiple people to work together. When you need to get visibility, a backup, restoring previous version, and understanding how your configuration works. Version control is that software that actually makes all of this possible. Yeah. So where are you? So we have different types of version control systems. We have basically two types, two categories now. We have the centralized version control system and then the distributed version control system. So in the centralized version control system, it uses a central stores all of the files, a central server to store all of the files, and teams, different collaborators now can access the central server, the single repository now. Repository. When I use repository, is synonymous to server in this use case. Yeah. So, but repository is actually the right word to actually use. But that's because it has a single repository now. There are some drawbacks now. Yeah. So it has that single point of failure. So once that central server fails, no one can, collaborate. Yeah, I wish I could actually draw on this thing. Yeah, so you can have multiple collaborators, yeah, but they are all connected to that central server. Whatever change they need to make, even though they still copy it to their local machine, that connection must be maintained for them to actually be able to push it. So I didn't have the opportunity to work on a centralized version control system until maybe I think early 2022 when I worked with an Indian organization, and then they were still using the centralized version. They used Subversion actually, and it was not fun at all. Yeah, I had to integrate it with the distributor because that's the fact that the code base is not can't is not available locally. I can't work offline. All of these drawbacks, didn't make it. Experience was not it was not fun at all. And most organizations are already even moving away from using centralized version control systems. Yeah, because of that, inability to work offline. This repository must be up and running. That central repository must be up and running at all times. So it's not really a very flexible collaborative tool, especially when we start talking about branching and all of those things. But the distributed version control system was drawn from the drawbacks now that the centralized had. So developers, every contributor has a local copy or a clone of the main repository. So does not rely on a central server. And that is why you can perform many operations even while you are offline. Yeah, so you can commit changes, create branches, because you have like a local copy of the repository. Yeah, and then when all of those has been done, you can now push to it also has a central repository, yeah, where all of the different contributions can come to. So you all you need to do is, you can work offline basically. Then you push to the remote repository. So we have Git actually championing um, the distributed version control system. Git is that's engine now is the version control system, the engine that powers. Okay, we have Mercurial also is also an engine that the distributed version control software. Yeah, well, I would again talking about the centralized version control system. It has a single repository where all users contribute their work. They're stored in a central location. Connect to it to access the repository, and then you work, check out files from there to work on them, and then commit the files. And when one person has checked out a particular file, the other contributors they cannot actually work on that file, because of that connection that is established to that file. It's like you're working on it directly. So changes are made by users through a client application and then committed to the central repository. Distributed version control system is centralized by nature. Yeah, so each developer has a complete copy of the repository, and including all of the history, all of the changes that has been made for as long as that repository, exists, making it very robust against data loss. So even if the central repository goes down, because you have multiple copies distributed, to the various collaborators, you can easily, once the central server comes back up, can push back all of the code after that has been recovered anyways, and then you can branch and merge as you want. Because you have a copy, you can create a clone of that, work on it, and then now create a pull request. We'll talk about all of these things in the passing. Again, you'll be deep diving into distributed version control system, soon. And collaboration and versioning. Collaboration is possible even without the central server, for teams that are distributed. Like I've worked with developers in different parts of the world, and because we have a distributed, even the ones that were using centralized, had to set up a way once they work on their centralized, because they were not. I don't know if you've worked with Indians. They are very, very I don't want to say stiff-necked. Their way is they stick to their way. They are not flexible. Yeah, so I was trying to introduce them to
Yeah, attest to that.
to Git. They no agree until I had to set up a new instance now where they, central their SVN that they were using, and then from there now move full as they are pushing to the distributed, they are centralized. That gets pushed to GitHub, and then from there, other developers that were working on that same project also can have a copy of whatever it is that they're working on. It was not fun at all. Yeah, it took days to be able to set that thing up. Yeah. Well, again, we'll now be sticking to, because I don't think anybody wants to go the route of centralized version control system. And so we'll be sticking to the distributed version control system. Again, you have offline access. Developers can work on projects even without an internet connection. Once you have, cloned the repository, you can make all of the changes that you want and then sync to the remote repository when you need to. And this allows for faster developments, because you can have parallel versions of that code base. Yeah, different parts of it can work at the same time. Yeah, and then increase collaboration, enhance security. So even if the central server goes down, we have a copy of repository sitting somewhere else, and then you can easily recover that. And fun fact, the distributed version control system I think Git was actually introduced by Linus Torvalds, the Linux guy. Yeah, so when you think Linux, so anything open source, I think Linus Torvalds was actually, again, this may not come in handy in any way. History, all of these technologies, actually, nobody cares about the history again, unfortunately. Well, in case Linus Torvalds was actually the one that initially designed Git, that's distributed version. He designed it while he was working on the Linux kernel, yeah, to help him manage all of the changes that I was doing. I had a colleague once that was so passionate about operating system. It was kernels. He wanted to write his own kernel. He was so obsessed with assembly language. Wanted to design his own kernel. I don't know if he actually accomplished it. Yeah, it's been a while actually. Start well. So we will be focusing on Git. Git is the most used version control system. One, it is free and open source. That is Git itself now. We're not going into GitHub yet. Git is still a software now, a version control software. Yeah, so it's a powerful tool for managing code and collaborating on projects. It has become the industry standard. Most version remote repository providers now actually is built on Git. Yes, there's GitLab, Circle CI, even Microsoft's the Team Foundation now initially was a centralized version control system, but now they have actually there is I think Azure repos now that is based on Git, and if you see all of the different providers, repository providers now, they are built on the Git technology. Yeah, so that's why I said it has become the industry standard for software development. Obviously, for good reason. It's fast. Has very, very good support, and again, is distributed. Yeah, so there is the Git workflow. So there are different stages. The Git actually has an architecture, uses a three, I'll say three-tier architecture. Yeah, so we have what we call the working directory. We have the staging area and also the local. Okay, yes, we have the repository. Yes, so we have the modified files. So this is basically your work space, everything you do in, when you have your configuration file opened in whatever ID you're using now, that's basically your working directory. You make changes to the files in your, and then if you've initialized that directory now as a Git directory, Git will start tracking all of those changes, but they've not been saved now to the repository. Again, your repository just sit as a database, even though it originally is a data structure. But yeah, database, data structure, potato. So we also have the staging area. So we'll talk about some of these commands now that you use to move from the different stages, of your Git. Just like you have your Terraform init, Terraform plan, and so you have different commands now that you use in Git that helps you move to the different stages, and then so you use the Git add now command to add all of the changes that you've done to the staging area. Basically preparing them to be committed to. So that staging area, yeah, the main benefits is to break up your changes into smaller self-contained pieces. So you work on a file, you work on 2 files, you want to commit them into your staging area. You don't want to, like I said, when you are writing configuration, after you've written a number of lines, you want to test it out to see that, yes, there are no, errors in there. Also, when your Git workflow, when you have modified quite a number of files, you want to stage them so that, when you need to roll back, you're not overwhelmed by the number of changes that you've made. So that's basically why that staging area is there. And then when you have confirmed that everything is fine, you can now commit it. You create a snapshot of that stage changes, and then specify all of the changes there's always a commit message now. We'll see all of these things in action in a bit. And then this would in a way version all of those changes. So when you are when you're working on configuration on code, you have a goal. Okay, yes, I'm working on a feature, or maybe on a new feature, or a bug now. So whatever it is that you did, maybe you wrote a new algorithm or you wrote some logic, and you have edited a few files, staged it, and then you have satisfied with everything that you've done. You can now commit, specifying, okay, yeah, this is what I worked on as a message, just to have a version of that, whatever it is that you've done. And then you can now push after you've committed to your local repository. You can now push to the remote repository like GitHub. So locally, you have a repository running on your local machine, and then you can now extend that to the remote repository to share your changes with whoever, all the members of your team. Yeah. Next, so Git repository setup. So locally, if you want to set up Git, you initialize Git init, Terraform init. Yeah, you have all of those things. You basically initialize your repository as just, but you must first have Git installed before you can say you want to uh, um, use Git locally. Yeah, so you start tracking because it's a software. I mentioned it earlier. It's a software, so you need to have it installed for you to say you want to initialize a directory. You want Git to start tracking the directory, but you use the Git init command to initialize a directory, and then have a repository created inside of that as part of that directory, and then use git add to make changes to stage the files, commit, and then push the repository. Yeah, we'll see all of this in a bit. Branching and merging, I would leave this for when you guys start doing more things. Branching basically is creating a separate version of your repository now, and then working on it, fixing bugs or whatever it is that you want to do, and then merging it back to the main branch. Yeah, so this picture kind of is depicting it. So you have your main repository. Out of your main repository, you create a branch, work on whatever it is that you need to work on and then you can now merge it back to bring it back to this main branch. It's called merging. Yeah, you create a pull request. I know some of these terminologies you will be hearing it time and again, and then it would, by the time you use it, it will make more sense. Yeah, so you have different branches. You can have master branch. You name branches depending on maybe environment. There are different criteria that you can use in. So when you hear of a branch, it's just a copy of your code base, of your configuration, now a copy of it. And you can have the original copy, and then you want to test out, okay, yes, I want to create an auto scaling group with a different configuration and see if it would work the same way as what we have. I want to optimize my configuration, try out maybe new ways of creating a particular resource now, but you don't want to affect what you already have that is working. So you can create a copy of that, work on it, and test if it works, fine. And then you can now, incorporate that change into, that main branch. That's basically what branching is, and then branching and merging, pull requests and what have you. Yeah. Collaborating with Gates on their own copy, branching, create separate branch, and then merging back, and then you push to the remote repository. Again, I can't overemphasize that Git is designed to facilitate collaboration amongst developers using branches and then all of those things. Yes, introduction to GitHub. GitHub is a web-based platform, utilizing Git for version control. There are two different things. So if you can actually differentiate this would, kind of solidify your knowledge of how version control works. Git is the technology that makes, that powers GitHub. GitHub is a platform, is another tool now. Basically a remote, a central hub, kind of, where you can take everything that you've worked on your local machine, and then save it or store it now, for collaboration purpose, and then to track, even though you have a copy of the history of everything on your local machine, you want to save that because anything can happen to your local machine. Yeah, so you have GitHub as that tool, and we have quite a number of these web-based platforms. I think I mentioned a few of them earlier. Azure Repos, AWS Code Commit. I think they've discontinued that. So most of these cloud providers do have their own kind of platform now, Git-based platform, to store code repositories, basically, to store or help manage your code base. Setting up a GitHub account is very, very straightforward. You go to the GitHub website, sign up, click on the sign up button, use an email and a password, a strong password. You're going to send a verification email, and then all you need to do is verify, and then very, very straightforward. Again, it's like creating an email, basically. I think it's even more, because there are some more checks that you even have to do in there. Or is there anybody that does not have a GitHub account here? I don't want to, even if you don't. So I'm just going to come to github.com. Are you guys still with me? I hope that my slide was not too boring and you guys picked one or two things from my rambling. I've been speaking to myself since. God, I'm very cool.
With you.
We can hear you well with you.
I can hear you.
Okay. Is there anybody that does not have a GitHub account? Yeah. Okay. So you people should have told me not to bother talking about GitHub now.
I don't know.
I have a GitHub account.
I know. Who said it doesn't? Dan.
Yes, I don't.
Okay, so just go to GitHub and type in your email address and sign up. Very, very straightforward. I don't think I want us to go through that step. the user. So go and reactivate it now because we'll start using it moving forward. So I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. I have my username and password. I'm not sure this password is correct. I know it's not correct. Let's see. This is great. Okay. You always want to have
Multi-factor authentication.
Yes. Authentication. So I will get 02824. And this will probably bring you to okay, you wanna be part of multiple organizations. That's page that bring you bring you to your profile. Yeah, I'm correct. Okay, so this will bring you probably to your profile. And so let me brag small. So the number of contributions that you've done will be here. This is basically what recruiters would come to see how much you've done over the years. Yeah. So and then the year that you have signed up would also be here. So you want to start as much as possible using it. You can't just, if you just have it without pushing daily, just make sure you push something to it, even if it's just a text file. Push to Git. So would learn how to both set up Git. This is GitHub now, but okay, well we'll go from, because it's GitHub we want to actually learn to use, and then we'll go to setting up to download Git on your local machine. Just do a download Git, and then by the time you come here, this would detect what operating system you have. If it's Windows, just click on the download for Mac and just follow the prompts. It's also very, very straightforward. I don't expect that anybody would have any, because there are no complexities in installing all of this. So I won't want us to spend time on doing this. And if you have Git installed, after running through the installer and what have you, if you come do a Git -v, you see this version of Git that you have installed, and that is all we need for now. Okay, we'll probably need to configure Git. If you have Git installed, you also want to configure Git. There are a few things that you would need to do. So the Git config basically is not for authentication in any way. It's just to, we talked about collaboration and then you have you're working with multiple developers, and then for record's sake, for every change that has been made to the code base now, your configuration is like a stamp now. Yeah, signing whatever it is that you worked on. Yeah, so after you've made all of the changes that you want to do on your local directory or your local repository now, and then you want to push to GitHub, you have multiple people working on, a repository, and then is basically your configuration that you do on your local machine is going to be stamped, attached to whatever change you made, so that whoever it is that is reviewing the code can say, okay, yes, this change was made by Dan, this change was made by Henry, and then you're able to track. And if anything breaks, they can also detect, okay, yes, it was Liz that sent that cooked these beans that introduced this bug. Is a particular developer. Oh my God. And it's PR like this. I like 10 people. 10 different developers. I'll talk to that. Please let me review Musha's code, because without reviewing, just know that that environment is coming down. Yeah, so and this is easy to track because you know, his name, it was, you know, has been attached to whatever changes he made. Yeah, so after installing Git and you sure that you have Git, then you have to do a few configuration from your local. And let me increase this. Actually have a very interesting terminal that I'm proud of. Let me use that instead of my local terminal. It's called WAP. I think is I don't this. No to sign up yet. Continue with GitHub. The terminal is actually very interesting. So let's increase this font. So again, has AI integrated, so all of this, but it's git config that I want to do just about now. Git config. Then you have global. Config global. I am not global, right? Global. And then I want to set my user email. And this is usually advised that you use the email that you used in setting up your gates. I think I want to put this in quotes. Also, you want to do this for your name. Again, this is in no way, this is not for authentication. This is just what will be attached to whatever commit that you make. So user.name. And you can do a config list to see all of the configuration that you have. I have quite a number. So when this master and all of these things is part of it's config this now. Yeah, so I see that my email and my name has been added to this. These other ones, don't bother yourself with it yet. It's just to customize a few things in Git. Well, your email and your name they're the important ones that we have in here. Yeah, so okay. Next is to did you want to ask something?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I want to find out this configuration you mean now. What will help us to do?
Didn't get that.
To push. This configuration I've done here now, the first two.
Yes.
Your email and your name here now.
Yeah.
How will help us to do? Just to help us push code to the GitHub.
No. So when you push to GitHub, yeah, it would have its whatever it is that you pushed would have your name attached to it. Easy identification. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Thanks, sir.
It's like saying you're creating a local account, Git account now. Yeah. So if anything goes from that account, you know, it's just for identification, basically.
Sorry, Mr. Moyo.
Yes.
Yeah, you are saying this is just for identification.
Mhm.
So how is how is Git linking us to GitHub, to our GitHub account? How are we linked to our GitHub account
That
when
is
we
the
are put?
next. That is the next thing we want to do now. So ordinarily, when you want to, if you just stick to this now, and then you want to push to when we have both public and private repository. Yeah, we'll talk about that very, very soon. Yeah, so when you want to link your GitHub, it's going to be your username and your password. Now, if you want to authenticate now from your local machine, you're going to
Okay.
use username and password, but GitHub is kind of discouraging the use of username and password. And you're even also going to be tired of anytime you want to push now to be requesting for username and password. So, but there is actually an easy way to actually go about it. Now they are encouraging the use of SSH keys. So you can create an SSH key just like we do, for our EC2 when we need to connect to our EC2 instance now. That's PEM file that we have. Yeah, we can use that, to authenticate. So you can generate an SSH key on your local machine and then add the SSH key to your GitHub account. Yeah, so that's what we want to do now. So I'm going to go ahead and run the command to
I used
create.
to think this is the part that links it.
No. This is not for authentication. Oh, no, at all. So just going to run an SSH command again to generate SSH is SSH keygen. The algorithm to use is RSA. And 2048. Do you see any? So as I was typing this, I just remember we created a key pair, in our configuration not quite long. And these are the things that RSA and then the number of bits that we want our key to be. Again, I just remember this. So I'm just going to keygen this. So this is going to generate a public and a private key pair. So enter a file in which you want to save this. Just save it in the default location is fine. And a passphrase. I don't want a passphrase. Again, you can add an extra layer of security, but when you need to use your key pair is safe already. Enter same passphrase again. And this is, so our key file has been generated. Now I'm going to the default, I'm going to take the public key now and add it to my GitHub account. So now that would so I'm just going to see public key has been saved here. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to do a cut. Okay, so I'm going to take this public key now, and then I'm going to come to my GitHub account and I'll click on my profile here and come to settings. Quite a number of things going in here, but let's take settings first. And then in SSH and GPG in access, come in here, and then I'm going to add a new SSH key. I'm going to call this your PC or whatever. And you can see it begins with SSH RSA, can authenticate SSH RSA, and all my public key. I've added this. So with
Sorry,
this,
hold on 1 second, please. Can you go back? So when you generated
the key,
when you generated the key,
yeah,
you went to the directory, or you just did a cat.
yes. If you come to this SSH directory, you see you have a public and a private key, but it's the public key actually that we are interested in. That's what you use and you add to your GitHub.
Okay.
Settings and then SSH and GPG keys.
Take this again. Can you go back? Take it again from where you're talking about the
okay,
public
so generate your key pair using this command.
Okay.
Yeah, so this will generate a public and a private key for you. Just leave all of the defaults. You can choose to save it wherever you want, but it's usually saved in the .ssh directory. If we go to that directory, let me go to that directory now. Nope. All right then. Okay, now see. I think I'm in this directory already here. So if I do an LL here, oops, so we have, these are the files that was generated when we ran that command ID, but it's the public key now that we are interested in. So that's why I did a cat this public key, and then I copied all of this, and then came to my GitHub. Come to settings in my GitHub, and then to SSH and GPG keys, and then add a new SSH key. You give it a name, whatever it is you want to call it, and then you paste whatever it is that you copied, that public key, from your local machine, and add it to GitHub. And with this, whenever you make any change, you can push and pull to GitHub as you want. So come back to so I'm going to walk us quickly through creating a repository now. So we have authenticated with GitHub and what have you. Now I'm going to quickly, so if I come to repositories now, I'm going to click on new.
So did you do a new SSH key or you did new GPG key? Because I just tried to do mine.
New SSH key.
Okay, so but it's telling me that it says, let me see what yours look like.
New SSH key. So you have the title, and then key type is authentication key. Don't change it.
Okay. Okay, because I copied the.
It has to be the public key. So it must begin with SSH. Make sure you copy the right thing, else to throw an error. If it does not begin with ssh.rsa, see mine started with ssh.rsa and then the name of that user, basically.
But mine is just starting with SSH -RSA, not begin.
I didn't get that.
I said mine is starting with SSH.RSA.
Yes, that's what it should begin with. Exactly, ssh.rsa.
Well, mine, okay.
If you copied the private key, like I said, you have two files in that particular directory, but the one you are interested in is the one that ends with .pub.pub. If you cut ID_RSA, that will not start with so ID _RSA. So that is going. It starts with begin. This is a private key, so it's a public one we are actually interested in.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly set up a repository now. I'm going to come to repositories, new, and so when you're working with developers, they literally like that you set up. If you're going to, again, you will probably be setting up repositories a lot, depending on whatever organization you're working with. For developers, new applications they're trying to develop, even new features now. If it's microservice now, they have separate repository for every microservice here. So all you will be doing is just name your repository. I'm going to call this in July.
I'm sorry. Hello, Moya. I'm sorry. I think I need to draw you back a bit. This configuration we just did, and the public key we just pasted in our Git. What is the whole essence? Why do we do it, please?
Okay, so it will make more sense by the time we create this repository. So if we create, so it's basically connecting your local machine now and to your remote repository. It's saying each time I can push, we talked about pushing to a remote repository. Yeah, so when I need to, whatever change I make on my local machine, and I want to save it to the remote repository so that you can pull all of that change and then work on it on your local machine.
What do you refer to the remote repository?
The remote repository is our GitHub. GitHub is the remote repository. On your local machine, you have a repository there. So do I have a repository here? Okay, just wait. This would make more sense when we create this repository and then so I can have, okay, yeah, I didn't want us to go too much deep into this. I just want to, so if I go into, come to my desktop and I think I have a July IAC directory here. Okay. So I'm inside of this directory now. If I do a git status now, this is actually could not open. So this particular directory now, where I have all of these files, this is not a Git repository. That's why it's throwing plenty errors. So I'm working on this particular directory configuration. Now I have a bunch of configurations that I've written my muyo.tf now, and I want to make it available for you to be able to pull all of this. Yeah. So, and this is local now. I don't have it, in GitHub, a central repository. There's no way you can connect to well, there is a way you can connect, but that is beyond what we're talking about now. I want to make this particular, everything that I've worked in this muyo.tf, I want to make it available for you to be able to pull to your local machine, add your own change, and then push back. So I can also have, whatever change that you've made to it. Yeah, so that is the essence. So I can have a local repository on my local machine, and then the remote one is for collaboration. So I can push to the remote, and then you can also pull and then push to it. That's the gist of, and then how do we authenticate? The authentication is, this is a web platform. I can, yeah, for me to be able to, well, when I needed to sign, I had to sign in. I went to github.com and I had to sign in to have access to all of this application. Same way, if I want to push things from my local machine to it, I need to, in a way, authenticate and let it know, okay, yes, this is the particular repository, GitHub account now that I want to push to. That's basically what we just did with the SSH key. If we didn't add a SSH key and I want to push it, to ask for your username and your password for this particular repository that GitHub account that you want to push to. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. So by the time we create a repository, it will make more sense. So I'm just going to call this like this. Let me call this. July. Terraform is fine. July. Terraform. All right, so I'm just going to this repository for Terraform project. So we can have public and private. Public means anyone on the internet, has access to the repository, and most organizations would not want all of their source code to be public, just for anyone to see. Usually is going to be private, and this is where your authentication would come in. Even if it's public, you still need to authenticate if you are going to push to it. Yeah. But for private basically means you will not be able to, not just anybody will be able to clone, or the right word, clone your other repository to their local machine, except you specifically add that person to that repository. Yeah. So I'm going to create a public repository now, and then we'll talk about private repository.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that this Git is where
GitHub.
sometimes yeah, GitHub is where possibly interview and during interview they may want to even request for your GitHub link and the rest of them, right?
Mhm.
Now, if you set this to private, does this
Yes.
does this have any role to play in when you share the link with them? If it's in private, will they be able to access?
That's repository. So what they want to see again is your profile, not all of the repositories that you have. Obviously, if you're working with different organizations, it's going to be private. They are not looking at your repositories. All they want to see is, are you contributing regularly, to GitHub, as whether it's public or private. Now, public private is again just to state the visibility of that repository. Those people who should have access to it. But if you are working, if an organization tells you, okay, come up with a proof of concept for an architecture, and then you have to write configuration for it. Obviously, you want to set it to public, else if you make it private, they will not be able to connect to it. Again, most organizations would have, if I come to this is the wrong bill. This automatically comes to private because I'm trying to create a repository for this particular organization.
Okay.
For my, I can choose.
Yeah, but one more thing, sorry. Your personal email, I could see you're using your personal email. So if you work for XYZ and ABC companies, right? All your Git repository are tied to your personal email, not your organizational.
So if an organization adds you, so if you create an organizational account, a GitHub organizational account, you can add different people to that organizational account. And this is, that's why we have different organizations in here. But your private own, you still need a GitHub account that the organization will add you as an individual to have. You're working with multiple different collaborators now. So each collaborator would have their own GitHub account, and then the organization itself would have its own GitHub account.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm going to create a public repository because I want it to be public again. Yeah. And then so again, this, if you are creating for developers, this is all that you need to do, because most of them work with they use different frameworks, and they have Bootstrap script that they use to start, depending on whatever framework that you're using. And so they will be the one to kind of pre-populate this, and then after they've done that, you still need to go back and do some configuration. Again, you learn more of all of these things in the GitHub module. But for this particular Terraform repository that we want to create, you can go ahead and add a README file. A README file is basically like a description of your projects, but for us, it's just a Terraform Terraform configurations, that was going to be in there. So this will probably take from the description in here and add this. And then git ignore, you always want to add a git ignore. Git ignore basically is list of files now that you don't want to push to your remote repository. You don't want Git to track it even from your local directory. So it's say sensitive credentials. Now you don't want to push those to Git. So we have a Git ignore file where you basically just list all of those files that you want to have, and then there are templates now that can be used. So we have a list of templates because there's a format. Different projects have, for our Terraform now, Terraform configuration files end with a .tf file, and we have some tf state files, and all of those things. So we have, so let's come to Terraform. So we have template that will basically help you bootstrap the list of files that is not really necessary. I want to say you don't want to commit to you don't want to make publicly accessible, you don't want Git to track it for you. So that is basically what the Git ignore does. Then I'm going to go ahead and create this. See that we're running out of time now. I'm trying to rush through this. So we have our repository created, and it has been instantiated with the Git ignore file and then the README file. And for us to now kind of take all of this now and start working on it on our local repository. So if you come to code here, you can use HTTP or SSH, because we have kind of connected our local machine to our GitHub. We can use SSH. If not, if you've not done that step of adding your SSH key, you'll only be able to clone using HTTPS because it's a public repository. So I can go ahead and use SSH if I want to. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to come to my local. I'm going to go back a step now to desktop. I'm going to do a git clone. It's the command, and then I'll paste in what I just copied. So it's cloning. It will clone that repository and just basically name it. It's basically copying. It's creating a directory on your local machine now called the name of whatever repository. So if I come back here and do a cd, what do I call it? July Terraform. And if I do an ls, I can see I have the README file. The .ignore is an hidden file, so you need to do ls LDH or whatever to be able to see .git ignore. And automatically, because this was cloned from a remote repository, it instantiates this. This is a directory, it's a Git directory already. But if you were creating your own directory, you need to run, for you to have this .git directory. This again, all of this you would learn in a bit. Yeah. So I want to open this up in my Git VS Code and then make changes to this and then push to my remote repository. So this would open up.
Once it's 9:30, your speed increases. Why?
Because I know that we still have quite a number of things to do, to talk about, and I want us to cover this today so that we
It's not helping us.
But if you ask questions, I still try to I want to cover all that I want to cover. But if you ask questions, I still try to respond. Yeah. Yeah. So I have this. This is basically what we have in our remote repository now. Now I have a copy of that, so I can start making changes to all of this file. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a main.tf file, and then going to add.
I think I missed how you were able to achieve this. Because I know I'm able to. At the last count, I was able to clone the Terraform on the local machine.
So you did a git clone and then you pasted the.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have to, so it will create a directory wherever it is that you clone this, it will create a directory with the name of that remote repository. So you
okay.
That directory and then opened it up using VS Code. Well, using this code dot.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've created this main, and I want to. Should I create a provider now? AWS. and I'm going to save this. And there are multiple ways to actually achieve this with our VS Code. Immediately I created and I started typing this, I can see that so this is, I mentioned that Git uses a three-tier architecture, the working directory. So this is our working directory now. And and then we have the staging area. And for us to move from staging, so the working directory to a staging area, we use a Git add, yes, the Git add command if we want to run. So we can open our terminal now and do a Git. If you do a Git status, this would tell you your branch is up to date with the original, blah, blah, blah. We have an untracked file. Yeah, I see that you have worked on a particular file, that is not on my remote rep. Well, that is not in your, so when you clone basically the remote repository into your local repository. Like I said, you have a local repository. I wish I could actually draw all of this. We have a local repository, which is like a copy of whatever it is in the remote. Yeah. So when you work on your the working area, it compares what you have in your working area with your local repository now. And you see, it says that there has been a change to your working area, but it's still not it's not tracking it yet. So it's still saying it's on track. I know there's something there, but you've not given me the explicit permission to version this. Yeah, so you use the git add command. You can do a git add and then the name of the file, main.tf, or if you have multiple files, you can do a git add and do a dot, a wildcard, like you use asterisk for wildcard, you use a git dot to, if you have multiple files, that is. Again, you have commands that can do this for you. For me, I am a very lazy person. So that's why I like IDEs. We have the source control part here. So for this now, I have to do a git add, git commit, write a message. So after I do a git add, I have to do a git commit and -m, add a message, say, okay, yes, created main.tf, main.tf file, and blah, blah, blah. After I've done the commit will push it from the working directory to my staging area. And then after I have done commits, I can now push to my remote repository. Yeah, but we have a very handy tool here that would basically do all of that adding and committing, for you. When you commit to your all of the changes now to your Git starts tracking it for you. So just what I did in here, I didn't have to add, I just add a commit message, created new file. And then this is the changes to this. I click on commit. It's going to tell you there are no stage changes to commit. Would you like to stage all your changes? Yeah, do a git add and change it. And then you automatically get sync changes. So after doing a git commit, what we just did with one click of a button now, you can now do a git push origin. Yeah, you can specify what branch or whatever it is, but git root origin is basically saying, okay, take all of the changes that I have on my local machine and push back to the remote repository where all of this should be. And again, all of this, a click of a button in here, the action will pull and push commit from and to your origin. Yeah. We'll do this over and over again. So we'll use both methods, but I'm using the easy way now. So initial commit, you can see initial commits. This is by, this is why you have the name and created new file. Yeah. This was done a few minutes ago. So if I come to my remote repository now and I do I refresh this? I see that the main.tf file has been added to this, created new file. That was the message that was added 1 minute ago. And then, you can see this is a a different version. This is why we call it version control, as you keep pushing. So Henry can take, if Henry can take this now, clone it to his local machine, work on it, and then push. If he tries to push, it will require, for him to authenticate. And, I can come to settings, add a collaborator. If I have Henry's GitHub username, I search for him, add him here, and then that way Henry is able to, collaborate on this particular repository. Well, again, this is for organization kind of setting, but within ourselves here, we are an organization. We can actually, add ourselves to a particular repository and, have us pull and push whatever it is that is being done in here. Again, this is like a very, very but look, you want to collaborate on this. So if I search for Palumi here now, so I see Palumi here. I can add him as a collaborator to this. It will get an invitation that yes, you have been added to a particular repository, and then it can, and this basically saying it can push to this repository. Else, even if it's public, you still cannot, push to it because you need some form of, authentication to be done. So we'll be building on all of this knowledge. This is just an introduction to how we can collaborate using, we are still learning IAC. So this is just us digressing because I want us to start, populating our GitHub accounts now. So you guys can, try to, I don't know when you guys will be able to catch up though, but, yes, you can just accept the invitation. Yeah. All right, guys. I know I've used more than I've taken you above your time, but if you have any questions around all of this, I would have time to, if we need to go over a few things again tomorrow, we'll go over it.
The last 30 minutes was done with a very high speed.
But that's why again we have if there's any confusion as to all of this, again, it's just an introduction. We'll be using it moving forward.
See,
so
Mr. Moyo, sorry to
yes.
cut you short. Guys, this Git thing is not a 1 day, 1 month thing that you used to learn it. So the fact that you are using it every day, you learn new things about it that will make you like it becomes a second nature when you start using Git every day. So most of these things, I'm not even trying to pressure myself into learning some things because I know in the future it will still come to my front that I will have to do research on how to go
as
about
much
this.
as I know Git, if I see merge conflicts,
I'll
just start cringing like, why? It's on another level.
I've been tormented. I've been tormented a lot
and,
about it.
Yeah, so it's every day. There's so much moving parts. If you come to this alone, see there's so much, especially with the introduction of new things daily. There are some things that I've not used before. Yeah, but by the time when you managing your own personal account is quite different from when you're managing an organizational account.
Yeah.
But so as you use this thing, like I said from the beginning, for us to gain mastery is by doing, and then that's how we build experience. So whatever issue, if you don't understand anything now, just try to create your account. The little that we did now, create a repository, try to make changes from your local machine and push to the remote repository. If you can do all of that, we'll build on this. We'll create multiple repositories, and then push and pull, at least for the few sessions that we have. Is going to be us writing configuration and pushing to, GitHub. All right, guys. Thank you for your time. Have a
Thank
good
you very much.
day.
Thank you, sir.
Till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah.